large, and that a lot more people are going towards sort of white wines, rosés, less so rosés, but sparkling especially, right? And I think one of the big things, particularly in France, that we're seeing is exactly that. So Bordeaux sales in general are going down, and as you know, like the Bordeaux blend has as an important component of it, Cabernet Sauvignon. And one of the things is that there's less and less demand for it, both on the domestic market, but also European markets. And I think it's part of a change in taste. I think there is a lot of different factors. I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a shift towards lighter wines, so white wines, and lighter reds, so lighter bodied reds. But also, I mean, I think there's just this kind of a move away from those, what you can get in cabs, those kind of astringent tannins, and that kind of just that wine that you necessarily would pair with something that is hearty, for want of a better word, meat, and I think all of these things are sort of correlated. So while people are eating less meat and less sort of those kind of diets, colder climate diets, I think that also is kind of driving this push towards sparkling or even non-alcoholic drinks, low alcohol wines. I know they're very much an inception phase for the moment, but I do think, this change in diets is sort of pushing that as well. And I'm very curious as to what's going to happen. I mean, Bordeaux, I think, as a region, is a little bit in crisis for this reason. It has this overproduction of red wine, and it's looking to diversify. There are different areas, wine regions in France, who have suffered the same, not necessarily Cabernet Sauvignon heavy regions, but regions that have had different sort of red wine grape varieties that saw a reduction in those, that are either seeing a kind of resurgence of them. So Beaujolais is a very good example of that, where the production really went down and then it's come back up and it's become popular again. For example, in London, Beaujolais is very big for the moment. But also other places like in the Loire Valley and different places where younger people are on the market and doing a lot of experimentation. So they're also on natural wines, on different types of wines. And so, you're seeing these more traditional markets sort of losing their space, I guess.
I feel like there's another grape, a Sicilian grape. I think I've mentioned this before, Frappato. And it's delicious. It's very light. It's a red, but it's very light red. It's supposedly the child of Sangiovese and an kind of an obscure Calabrian grape. And but it's very, very light, very fresh, like Occhipinti's making it, Donna Fugata. But it's still not big, but I have heard more about it. Maybe it's because I just discovered it last year that, then you feel like you're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think people are turning to those, like, why would this obscure kind of grape now be getting popular all of a sudden? And I think that's part of it, is that it's a lighter red. It's an option for a red that just isn't that super heavy. Another thing I noticed, because I work a lot with other journalists, when I'm doing pitching, either I'm pitching stories or I do PR, like I do consulting PR with agencies. And sometimes I'm trying to get other journalists to write stories and like staff people. And so we try to get them to drink that client's wine. And the feedback that I've gotten, you almost never get negative feedback. But when I have gotten negative, it's two things. It's either big bottles, those heavy bottles that people are really against that, some people, and then also very high alcohol levels. If it's like 14.5, they're just like, I can't, they're against it. It's like they're against it. That is just out, that whole idea. So I think it plays into the cab.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that so climate change, I think, is a really important factor here. And one of these things is that you get, more and more in the south of Italy. This better than anyone. And in certain areas, I'm sure of California, with your Primitivo and your Zinfandels. It's hard to find them that are under 14.5, if not 15. It is really important levels of alcohol that I just don't think there's a demand for like there used to be, some time ago. I think that's really there's an evolution there. And that's not to say I don't, I do think wines go in and out of fashion. So I think Pinot Noir is definitely is having a heyday, but I don't think it's going to last that much longer. And I'm very curious as to what the next thing is going to be that everyone is drinking. I think I told you also that I heard an interview recently with a master of wine. I can't remember her name, but she was saying that she's, she speculated that the next big red wine grape would actually be Sangiovese, because
Okay.
it's such a grape that so many people like.
Great for Chianti. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. So
I think another grape, and it's not red, it's white, but Chenin Blanc. We talked about that before.
yes,
That is on everyone's mind, lips, in the glass. I mean, I just can't tell you how many times I've heard that mentioned. And I mean, I love Chenin Blanc, so great. That's wonderful. But it's just not something that you were hearing about a year ago or 2 years ago. I mean, very rarely. It wasn't something that people were asking for. And now it's like everyone's talking about it. So I think that
that's so
one's on
interesting.
the rise. I
That
know.
hasn't come here at all. So the big thing in Italy that I'm seeing now is Vermentino. Everyone is
Oh, I
planting it.
love Vermentino.
Oh, well, I'm telling you, I had the most unbelievable one from Liguria the other day, and I'd never had one from Liguria, and it was amazing.
What?
Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec.
What?
Sorry, Pierpaolo just came in to say that white wine is also cheaper. This is
True.
another factor.
That's
Yeah.
true too. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, people are asking some crazy prices for it here, but it's cheaper than the rest. We know how some prices can be ridiculous here,
Yeah.
for wine. But like the really like the Cardinal, like you went to Cardinal when you were here. Their Sauv Blanc is $80. I mean, is that crazy? But
That
that's
is
normal.
crazy.
That's normal with the big, very, well regarded wineries. They usually have they're usually mainly red, but they'll have a white, and it's usually Sauv Blanc or Chardonnay, and it's going to be in that range. If their other wine is 150 to 200, I guess
Yeah.
that's what it is. But
Oh my
yeah,
God, but
so
that's so crazy. So the other thing I was going to say though, and I'm wondering if it's the same is true of California with going back to Cabernet Sauvignon, is, for example, the very top tier, so the stuff that Saint-Emilion prices for their Bordeaux blends, those sales have not gone down. So there's still that that kind of very top tier consumption
yes.
demand is still it's the middle that's really in decline, but the top wines are still going.
Yeah. And I really don't think they'll ever be affected, because that's where you get into the collectors.
Exactly.
And I mean, Cab is such a great wine for aging. And so I think Cab will always have a spot in that for those people. That's never going to be an issue. But yeah, it's not, I think if it reduces anywhere, it's going to be just more of the normal consumer who maybe just isn't looking for that. I mean, a little bit off topic. I hate to do that, but I can edit all this. I forgot to tell you. So I'm also talking to a new PR agency, and about doing some work with them, and like maybe doing some media relations, like I was just telling you, and then also some writing for clients. And they represent wine associations around the world. And so I
Okay.
was just talking to the owner the other day, and she mentioned like, I need to get you out on some press trips. I need to get in. I was just like, yeah, whatever. And she goes, what about Languedoc? Now, do you know Languedoc very well?
I don't. I
Neither do I.
don't. I mean, I do. I know of it, but I don't know. No.
According to her, it is really up and coming because it's got all these young winemakers and
Yeah,
young
that doesn't
producers,
surprise me in the slightest.
and they're doing all kinds of innovative things. And it's very, again, it's kind of more like the lower alcohol, all of that. But she said it's just, they're not following any rules. And she said that's what's really cool about
Yeah, that's
that
what's really
area.
exciting about it. I'm not surprised. I'm not
So I may be
surprised.
coming to Languedoc in the fall. That's when she said she
Oh
thinks she'll
God.
be doing.
Oh,
So that'll be another trip, because if I do that,
yeah.
frankly, it's like, then I'll be there. So I just stay another week. And then if you come over, then we can do whatever is in that area or do that area.
Oh
So
my God, I
just
would love that. I
mind.
really, really would. It would be so fun.
Yeah.
I really would. I really
Or
want
I
to
can
take
hop over
advantage.
to Italy, either way.
No, that would be amazing. Anything else we want to say on cab? I'm trying to see if we've covered all of our points.
We were going to just mention that, will Merlot, we were going to mention the fact that Cab had been king for a while and
Yeah.
everything, there are lots of wines that have come in and out and,
Yes, yes.
had their
Okay.
heyday and then they didn't, like, for a while Merlot was like, nobody was drinking Merlot. After Sideways, it just became like, people had the wrong idea about it and but it came back. Merlot
Yeah.
came back. And that might be something that I don't know if it'll take the place of Cab. It's never really been as big as Cab, but that's an idea. Some of these things that go in and out, and I think we both agree, Cab's never going to fully go out. It's always
Yeah.
going to have a place, but it's just not going to be the one that's going to be the Tuesday night wine, I don't
Yeah.
think.
No, I agree.
Yeah. But then we were talking about how the White Zinfandel had its like moment, and what was the other wine that we were talking about that had a moment, and then now it's just kind of like, well, Chardonnay, like the California Chardonnay, it definitely had a moment. That whole buttery, oaky Chardonnay was big for a while. It was
Yeah,
really
it
big.
was.
Nobody wants that anymore. Nobody
No.
wants that anymore. Everything
No.
is now made like at least
Crisp, high acid.
yeah.
Yeah. And not too much malolactic. Like that's the thing
No.
that people are kind of looking for. And certainly actually malolactic, maybe yes, but much less oak.
Yeah.
Which is much nicer. I mean, I think about, for me, an example of excellence in Chardonnay really is Chablis. I mean,
Mhm.
but again, there you're looking at a lot of really kind of expensive stuff. But if you go further down into the Macon, for example, like there you can get it's different because obviously it's slightly warmer climate in the Macon compared to Chablis, so they're slightly more there's kind of more mature flavors, but you get excellent value for money. I mean, it really is unbelievable compared to all of the other Burgundy whites, which are just
That would be where to go if I go to Languedoc and you come over, go to Burgundy, because I have not done wine in Burgundy. Like I've been in the area, but I haven't done any wine tasting.
Oh yeah,
there,
I mean,
so.
there's so many places to go to. We could do Bordeaux as well. Oh God, there's just so much stuff.
I'm not as interested in Bordeaux. I've been to Bordeaux, so that's why.
Oh, okay, well then, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Burgundy. Have you been to Dijon?
I've been to Dijon, but maybe I haven't. I've been to Lyon. Now, Lyon is that also in Burgundy? Or
No,
it's
no.
near,
Lyon is below.
below. What
Yeah.
else would I have been to in Burgundy? What other towns?
Besançon.
Mm-mm.
No, Dijon. Where else would you have been? I mean, Burgundy. I mean, the major city of Burgundy is Dijon. Then you've
Okay.
got Besançon. And then it goes down, and then you go into the Macon, but it's all kind of villages, right? I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah. I'd have to look at a map and see.
Chambertin, it's all of that, but it's all kind of Chevry-Chambertin,
Yeah.
all of that. It's all Côte de Nuit, all of that. It's all villages.
Yeah. Bottom line, I've traveled through it, but I don't nearly know it, I guess. So that would be a cool one.
No, I mean, I don't know either. Yeah, I mean, obviously I've read about it, but I haven't. I've only ever been to Dijon.
Okay. All right. Well,
But
then
yes, definitely something that we should consider doing.
that in your mind that's a possibility out there. And then yeah, so I guess that's it. I mean, we handled it. We did it.
We handled it.
Okay.
Okay.
Cab is having a non-moment. But I think that they will always be there will always be a market for it, a big market for it, especially among collectors. But it's not what people are grabbing these days.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think that is driven by a lot of things. One is there's a surge in a consumption of whites and sparkling. I think because of changing diets, people don't necessarily view it as an appropriate pairing. And then it's expensive, and the types of diets that people are having are also very different. So I think, yeah.
And the
I think-
alcohol, people are moving away from
and
that.
yeah, exactly.
And the price.
And the price, exactly.
Okay.
Great.
All right, great. Well, we did it. We
Okay.
did it.
So what are we doing? What do we want to do in our next one? Because then I'll do a bit of research.
Yeah, what do we want to do? Do
What
we
did
want-
we put in our notes? I'm trying to remember.
do we want to talk about a region? Do we want to
Okay.
yeah, I sent you, did I guess I have it written down somewhere, but I don't know where right now. We could talk about a region, we could talk about Sicily and just talk about the different regions. And then, you know, as part of this idea that we're going to be